Ladies and gentlemen, there's one thing in life that you can always count on. People will talk. They will talk when you rise, and they will talk when you fall. They will talk when you succeed, and they will talk when you struggle. But here's the good news. Talk is cheap, but God's purpose is priceless. The opinions of men do not determine the outcome of your destiny. What God has planned for you, He has already established before the foundation of the world. No committee can vote on it, no critic can cancel it, and no enemy can stop it. The only thing that can hinder God's purpose in your life is your failure to believe in it. When Joseph shared his dream, his own brothers mocked him, plotted against him, and sold him into slavery. But what they didn't realize was that they were working for him. The very thing they did to destroy him positioned him for his destiny. I came to tell somebody today, let them talk. Because while they are talking, if you have no opposition, you might not be a threat to the enemy. But when you start moving in your God-given purpose, expect resistance. Expect people to misunderstand you. Expect rumors, betrayal, and false accusations. But don't let it shake you. You see, the presence of critics is often the clearest sign that you're on the right path. If you were not carrying something valuable, the enemy wouldn't bother you. Remember, Jesus himself was lied about, falsely accused, and crucified by the very people he came to save. But did their opinions stop his purpose? No. In fact, their actions fulfilled it. When people plot against you, they don't realize they are actually pushing you closer to your destiny. Many of us spend too much time defending our reputation. But listen to me. God is not concerned with your reputation. He is concerned with your character. Reputation is what people say about you. Character is what God knows about you. Reputation is temporary, but character is eternal. When you know who you are and whose you are, you don't have to fight every battle. Some things you just let God handle. The Bible says in Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Sometimes your silence is the loudest response you can give. Don't waste your energy arguing with people who don't understand your vision. They didn't call you, they didn't anoint you, and they surely cannot stop you. God's will for your life is not up for a vote. Your destiny is not determined by public opinion. Just because people don't believe in you doesn't mean God changed his mind about you. When God says yes, no one can say no. Look at David. His own family didn't consider him worthy to be king. But when the prophet Samuel came to anoint a king, God bypassed all of David's brothers and said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. When God chooses you, it doesn't matter who overlooks you. Promotion does not come from the east or the west. It comes from the Lord. Let them talk, but don't let their words stop you. Keep building, keep believing, keep walking in purpose. You don't need validation from men when you have confirmation from God. When all is said and done, the only voice that matters is the voice of the one who created you. And if He's spoken over your life, it is settled. His purpose will prevail. No matter what you do in life, there will always be someone with an opinion. People will talk when you succeed, and they will talk when you fail. If you rise, they will question how you got there. If you struggle, they will whisper about why you haven't made it yet. If you try something new, they will say you are unrealistic. If you stay the same, they will say you lack ambition. The reality is, you can never fully satisfy people's expectations because their opinions are constantly changing. Look at history. Every great leader, every world changer, every visionary has faced criticism. Some were called crazy, others were mocked, and many were rejected by their own people. Even Jesus himself, the Son of God, was falsely accused, ridiculed, and crucified by those who didn't understand his purpose. If the perfect Son of God was talked about, what makes you think you will escape it? People often talk not because they truly know you, but because they need something to discuss. Gossip thrives in idle minds, and opinions come cheap. Some people will speak against you simply because they fear what you represent. Your progress exposes their stagnation. Your faith challenges their doubt. Your confidence unsettles their insecurity. And instead of confronting their own shortcomings, it is easier for them to criticize your journey. Sometimes people will talk because they only see a fraction of the story. They judge the chapter they walked in on without knowing the full book of your life. They see the struggle, but not the sacrifices, the pain, but not the process. They assume they understand, but they don't know the prayers you've prayed, the tears you've cried, or the battles you've fought in silence. Even those closest to you may have something to say, friends, family members, colleagues. Some will question your choices. Others will doubt your ability. Some will remind you of your past as if it has the power to cancel your future. Some will bring up old mistakes as if they define who you are. The truth is, people often talk from their own limited perspective. What they say is a reflection of their own fears, insecurities, and limited vision, not a reflection of your destiny. The more you step into your calling, the louder the voices will become. The more you grow, the more opinions will arise. But whether they praise you or criticize you, one thing is certain: people will always talk. When God ordains something, no force in heaven or on earth can stop it. His purpose is not dependent on human approval, nor is it subject to the limitations of circumstances. What He has declared over your life was established before the foundations of the world. Before you were born, before anyone had an opinion about you, before any obstacle arose, your destiny was already written in eternity. No amount of opposition, delay, or resistance can override what God has set in motion. God does not consult human opinions before He moves. His plans do not require approval from committees, governments, or critics. When He opens a door, no one can shut it. When He declares a thing, it must come to pass. The words of men may rise against you, but they cannot rewrite what heaven has already established. Even when it seems like opposition is winning, even when it looks like obstacles are too great, even when people walk away or betray you, God's purpose remains intact. The challenges and setbacks that appear to delay your progress are often the very tools God uses to propel you forward. What the enemy means for harm, God turns for good. What seems like a setback is often a setup for something greater. When people reject you, they unknowingly make room for divine elevation. When doors close, they simply redirect you to the ones that were meant for you. When storms arise, they do not destroy you. They refine you, strengthen you, and prepare you for what's coming. Nothing catches God by surprise. No attack of the enemy, no human opposition, no unexpected trial can alter what He has spoken. His plans are higher, His wisdom is greater, and His sovereignty is absolute. No power in hell, no system of man, no force in the universe can override what He has purposed. What He has declared must come to pass. His word does not return void, and His promises are never broken. What He starts, He finishes. What He ordains, He fulfills. What He decrees, no one can reverse. Distractions are the enemy of destiny. The moment you step into your purpose, noise will arise, doubters will speak, critics will analyze, and spectators will speculate. Some will question your abilities, while others will predict your failure before you even begin. The louder the calling, the greater the noise. But noise is just that, sound without substance, designed to pull your attention away from what truly matters. Throughout history, those who fulfilled their purpose were those who learned to shut out the distractions. They refused to engage in battles that were beneath their calling. They understood that responding to every critic, defending every decision, and proving themselves to every skeptic was a waste of energy. They didn't allow the voices of the crowd to dictate their next move because their focus was set on a mission greater than human approval. Distractions come in many forms, not just through people, but through fear, doubt, and even past experiences. Sometimes the greatest noise is not external, but internal. The voice of past failures will try to remind you of where you fell. The voice of comparison will tempt you to measure your journey against someone else's. The voice of insecurity will whisper that you are not enough. But if you entertain these voices, you risk losing sight of the assignment you were created for. Every great vision requires undivided focus. The moment you look to the left or the right, you lose momentum. Those who accomplish great things are not those who have the least opposition, but those who are least affected by it. They understand that their time is too valuable to waste on meaningless distractions. They refuse to be moved by applause or discouraged by criticism because their eyes are locked on something greater than the noise around them. If there is no resistance, you may not be a threat to the enemy. The moment you step into your God-given assignment, opposition will arise. Criticism, betrayal, false accusations, and unexpected challenges are not signs of failure. They are often proof that you are on the right path. The enemy does not attack what is insignificant. The pressure you face is not because you are weak, but because you carry something powerful. From the beginning of time, every person with a divine mandate has faced opposition. Moses was opposed by Pharaoh before he could deliver Israel. Nehemiah faced mockery and threats while rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. David was hunted by Saul before he could take the throne. Even Jesus himself was resisted at every turn, from religious leaders, from the very people he came to save, and even from one of his own disciples. The pattern is clear. Those who are chosen by God will always face opposition. Opposition often comes from unexpected places. Sometimes it comes from those closest to you, people who should support you, but instead question, criticize, or even try to stop you. Joseph's greatest opposition did not come from strangers, but from his own brothers. They could not see past their jealousy to recognize the anointing on his life. Many times people resist you not because you are doing something wrong, but because your calling exposes their own insecurities. The weight of your opposition is often a reflection of the greatness within you. The enemy does not fight empty vessels. The more significant your destiny, the greater the warfare. Attacks do not mean God has abandoned you. They mean that something powerful is on the horizon. The battles you face today are preparing you for the assignment you were born to fulfill. What looks like a delay is actually a process of refinement. What seems like rejection is often God's way of removing distractions. What feels like an obstacle is actually positioning you for something greater. When doors close, when people walk away, when adversity rises, it is not a sign to quit. It is a confirmation that you are walking in purpose. Those who are not called to greatness do not face great battles. If you find yourself in the middle of resistance, it is not the time to back down. It is the time to stand firm, knowing that every attack is an indication that something greater is ahead. God's plan for your life is not up for discussion, debate, or public approval. Your calling is not a community project where people get to cast votes on whether you qualify. Destiny is determined by God alone, and what He has ordained for you cannot be overridden by human opinion. People may have their thoughts, their criticisms, and their judgments, but they do not have the authority to alter what God has established. Throughout history, men have tried to control, limit, and dictate the destinies of others. They have attempted to determine who is worthy of leadership, who deserves promotion, and who should be silenced. But time and time again, God has shown that He does not operate by human systems. He doesn't based on popularity, credentials, or societal expectations. He calls, qualifies, and elevates whomever He pleases, often using the least expected, the overlooked, and the unqualified in the eyes of men. David was a shepherd boy ignored by his own father when the prophet Samuel came looking for a king. His brothers were stronger, taller, and more experienced. But God had already made His choice. When Samuel tried to anoint the one who looked most fit for the throne, God stopped him and said, "Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." The decision was never in the hands of people. It was in the hands of God. Joseph's brothers tried to vote him out of his destiny by throwing him into a pit. They conspired to silence his dream, convinced that their actions could erase God's plan. But what they failed to realize was that God's purpose is not subject to their control. Their betrayal did not cancel Joseph's destiny. It became the vehicle that transported him to it. The very ones who plotted against him ended up bowing before him, not because they approved of him, but because God's word had to be fulfilled. When God calls you, not everyone will agree. Some will doubt you, some will resist you, and others will actively work against you. But their opinions do not determine your future. No one can vote you out of your purpose. No opposition can overturn what God has already set in motion. Human systems may have their processes, their requirements, and their expectations, but divine calling is not limited by earthly rules. What God has spoken over your life is final, and no man can change it. Reputation is what people say about you, but character is what God knows about you. Reputation is built on perception, how others interpret your actions, your words, and your life. It can change in an instant, shaped by rumors, misunderstandings, or public opinion. But character is deeper. It is the foundation of who you truly are. It is not based on what is seen, but on what is lived. Many people spend their lives trying to protect their reputation, working tirelessly to be liked, approved, or respected by others. They adjust their actions to fit expectations, crafting an image that pleases the crowd. But the danger of prioritizing reputation over character is that reputation can be manipulated, but character cannot be faked. A good name built on falsehoods will eventually crumble, but true integrity will stand even when reputation is attacked. Jesus himself had a reputation among men, but it did not reflect the truth of who he was. Some called him a prophet, others called him a blasphemer. Some praised him as the Messiah, while others accused him of working with demons. His reputation shifted depending on who was speaking, but his character never changed. He did not live for the approval of men. He lived for the will of God. Even when the crowd turned against him, even when false accusations were made, even when his reputation was destroyed, his purpose remained untouched. Character is revealed in the unseen moments. How you respond when no one is watching, how you treat people who cannot benefit you, how you remain steadfast in trials. It is tested in adversity, proven in hardship, and refined in the fire of experience. Unlike reputation, which can be destroyed by a single lie, character is built through consistency, faithfulness, and unwavering integrity. Nothing happens outside of God's control. The very thing meant to destroy you is often the thing that elevates you. The attacks you face are not a sign that you are failing. They are proof that you are moving forward. If the enemy is working against you, it is because he sees the power of what you carry. But what he fails to realize is that in trying to stop you, he is only helping fulfill the plan that God has already set in motion. Just because something has not happened yet does not mean it will never happen. God's timing is not man's timing, and his process is not always easy to understand. When prayers seem unanswered, when doors remain closed, and when progress feels slow, it is easy to assume that God has forgotten. But delay is not a sign of denial. It is often preparation in disguise. Abraham was given a promise that he would become the father of many nations. Yet he waited 25 years before Isaac was born. Joseph had dreams of leadership and greatness, but instead of immediate fulfillment, he was sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. David was anointed as king while still a young shepherd, but years passed before he ever sat on the throne. In each case, the delay was not a cancellation of the promise. It was God's process of development. Waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. When God allows a delay, it is because he is building something within you that is necessary for your next level. There are lessons that can only be learned in the waiting, character that can only be formed through endurance, and strength that can only be developed through patience. If you receive a blessing too soon, you may not have the capacity to sustain it. God's delays are often his way of protecting you from premature success. Many times, what seems like a delay is actually divine alignment. What looks like a missed opportunity is God setting the stage for something better. If Joseph had gone straight from the pit to the palace, he would not have been ready to govern a nation. If David had become king immediately, he would not have developed the wisdom and leadership needed to rule. God does not just want to give you a promise. He wants to prepare you to handle it. The enemy will try to use delays to plant doubt in your heart. He will whisper that God has changed his mind, that you are not qualified, or that you have missed your chance. But God does not abandon his plans. If he spoke it, he will bring it to pass. No amount of time, no obstacle, and no human interference can cancel what he has ordained. When things do not happen according to your timeline, it is not a rejection, it is a redirection. Delay does not mean forgotten. Delay does not mean disqualified. Delay does not mean denied. It simply means that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything for the right moment. When his time comes, no force in heaven or on earth will be able to stop it. Not every battle requires a response, and not every accusation deserves a defense. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. When you understand the power of silence, you realize that sometimes the best response is no response at all. The enemy thrives on reaction. He wants you distracted, disturbed, and emotionally entangled in unnecessary battles. But when you remain silent, you strip him of his power. Jesus himself demonstrated this principle. When he was falsely accused, mocked, and put on trial, he did not waste time defending himself against lies. The Bible says he opened not his mouth. He understood that some battles are not won with words, but with wisdom. His silence was not defeat. It was a declaration that he did not need to justify himself before men. He knew that his purpose was greater than the opinions of the crowd. Silence confuses the enemy. When people expect a reaction and receive none, they are left powerless. When your critics try to provoke you and you refuse to engage, they lose control. The loudest voice in the room is not always the most powerful one. True strength is the ability to hold your peace, even when everything in you wants to respond. Silence gives room for God to fight on your behalf. When Israel stood before the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army behind them, they were filled with fear. But Moses told them, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Sometimes silence is the greatest demonstration of faith. It is an acknowledgement that God is in control. It is saying, I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to fight this battle in my own strength. God will handle it. Silence is also a tool of wisdom. A wise person knows when to speak and when to be quiet. Words spoken in anger, frustration, or pain can do more harm than good. When you speak too soon, you may reveal more than necessary. When you react emotionally, you may say something you later regret. But when you stay silent, you give yourself time to discern, to pray, and to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. Silence exposes motives. When you refuse to argue, when you do not fight back, when you remain calm in the face of opposition, people's true intentions become clear. Those who are only seeking a reaction will reveal themselves. Those who are trying to manipulate you will lose their grip. Those who are spreading lies will eventually be confronted by the truth. The power of silence is that it forces the truth to surface on its own. Not every attack needs an answer. Not every insult requires a reply. Silence is a weapon of the strong, the wise, and the focused. It keeps you from engaging in distractions, preserves your peace, and allows God to work on your behalf. It is not a sign of surrender, it is a strategy of victory. Purpose is not a temporary assignment. It is an eternal blueprint designed by God before you were even born. It does not expire, fade, or become irrelevant with time. What God has ordained for your life is not subject to human limitations, circumstances, or even your own mistakes. Purpose is not something you... Long before you took your first breath, your purpose was already written. God told Jeremiah, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. This means that purpose is not a reaction to your existence. It is a reason for it. You were not randomly placed on this earth. You were sent here with an assignment. Your life is not accidental, and your calling is not temporary. Because purpose comes from God, it cannot be destroyed by man. People may try to block you, delay you, or even disqualify you, but they don't have the authority to cancel what God has established. Kings and rulers have come and gone, yet the purposes of God remain. Empires have risen and fallen, but divine assignments continue to unfold. Every generation is given the responsibility to fulfill a part of God's eternal plan. And nothing can stop what He has decreed. Purpose is greater than position, status, or personal ambition. It is not confined to titles, jobs, or earthly achievements. A career may come to an end, but purpose continues. A position may be taken away, but purpose remains. When one door closes, another opens, because God's purpose is never dependent on one route. The path may change, but the destination is the same. Purpose is stronger than death. When a person fulfills their assignment on earth, their impact continues even after they are gone. The words they spoke, the lives they touch, and the legacy they left behind echo through time. Purpose does not end in the grave. It transcends generations. What God starts in one person, He continues in another. The vision He gives to one leader, He carries on through others. Moses led Israel out of Egypt, but Joshua finished the journey. David dreamed of building the temple, but Solomon completed it. One generation lays the foundation and another builds upon it, but the purpose remains the same. Purpose is not dictated by seasons of life. Youth does not qualify you, and old age does not disqualify you. If you are still alive, it means your purpose is still active. God does not waste breath. As long as you have it, you have an assignment. Delays, failures, and detours do not eliminate your purpose. They are simply part of the process. What God has spoken over your life is eternal, and no force in heaven or on earth can erase it. When God has ordained a purpose for your life, no amount of opposition, delay, or criticism can cancel it. People will talk, but their words cannot override God's plan. Enemies will rise, but their attacks will only push you closer to destiny. The journey may not always be smooth, and the waiting may seem long, but delay is not denial. God's timing is perfect. Your purpose is not up for debate. It is not based on popularity, human approval, or circumstances. It is eternal, unshakable, and unstoppable. What God has spoken will come to pass, and no force in heaven or on earth can erase it. Opposition is merely confirmation that you are walking in your calling. Silence can be your greatest weapon, and character will always outweigh reputation. So stand firm, trust the process. Keep moving forward. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them resist. But remember, God's purpose will always prevail.